I've created like a lymph dance.
That's what she's doing Friday night.
Yeah.
She's like sculpting the face.
Sculpting my stomach. No, for stomach.
Oh, I love belly dancing.
Belly dancing.
On today's podcast, we have the founder of Forme, Sophie Dulac. I recently visited her for a lymphatic massage and I was blown away by the results. So I had to have her on the podcast. We talk all about the benefits of lymphatic massage and why we should be incorporating them into our routine. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another episode of Self-Dom Beautiful Humans, a safe place to learn and get inspired to live your healthiest and most fulfilling life. I am Dom, your host, and I feel so grateful to be living my passion by getting to interview inspiring and knowledgeable guests. Today is all about lymphatic drainage and more specifically, lymphatic drainage massages. I have been obsessed with this detoxing mechanism for a long time, but I feel like it's really having its moment. A lymphatic drainage massage involves a gentle massage focusing on the lymphatic system, which is part of the immune system. I personally love it because it helps with my water retention, my skin gets clearer, my mood is boosted, and all the anti-inflammatory benefits. Today's guest is the founder of Forme, Sophie Dulac. I recently visited Sophie at her clinic and I was blown away. I am such a head noise girl, and for those 90 minutes I felt so calm, so rejuvenated, and on top of that, the physical benefits, I felt leaner. The white in my eyes was super white afterwards. So I just thought after that experience, I have to have her on the pod and we need to talk about the benefits of lymphatic massage. So welcome to Self-Dom.
Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm so excited to be here.
So lymphatic massage, it's having its moment. What got you into lymphatic massages?
I think that's kind of a long-winded story, starting probably with my wellness journey, and I would say that started with my mum. She was a beauty therapist growing up, so I think self-care has always, and beauty in a way, has always been a theme in my life. And my mum was on her own kind of, I guess, alternate therapies journey because her dad was kind of misdiagnosed with cancer and, you know, died suddenly, and I think she just lost all faith in conventional medicine. So she kind of started that journey, I would say in the 70s, 80s maybe, and so she was doing like everything like homeopathy, naturopathy, iridology, like, you know, when I was born we had only filtered water, like we didn't drink cow's milk, like we had crystals in our water. So that all kind of came through my mum, and then she was diagnosed with cancer when I was 14. And I think that it kind of really shook everything up for me and made me really realise how important health is, because my mum was healthy and she had that side and she was very, you know, concerned about her appearance and everything, but she also grew up in the 70s and 80s. She was a party girl. She loved to smoke, she loved to drink. So she had like this kind of inner dichotomy going on. And I think I just kind of really wanted to prioritize my health and do everything that I could to support myself, because I was, you know, shocked, as I'm sure you were when you find out about your mum. And I think around that time I'd moved high schools and I always hated school sport, and only on every second term they offered dance, and on the other, you know, term I was like, oh my God, Mum, what am I going to do? I hate sport. And so she was like, oh, there's yoga on the offering. Why don't you try yoga? It's kind of like dance, but you're kind of moving with your breath. So from 14, I was doing yoga and Mum kind of was recovering. And then the cancer ended up metastasizing 8 years later. So in 2016, it moved to her bones. And I became her carer, and while I was caring for her, I was teaching yoga, and a lot of my clients were kind of coming to me with conditions and injuries, and I was like, I just did a month intensive yoga course in India. Like, I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. So I then started studying massage, and at the same time, like, Mum was, you know, her health was kind of declining, and she ended up developing lymphedema, which just explained to you before the pod, is it happens often in cancer cancer survivors or people with cancer when they've had lymph nodes removed, and the limb or the area that's affected, because there's less lymph nodes, and lymph nodes act as little filters for the lymph. There's not enough lymph nodes to deal with the excess fluid. So the limb itself will just become inflamed, and it looks almost like elephantitis. And so she had developed that in the kind of final stages of her life. And one of her friends was a massage therapist. So she kind of came over and she started to do lymphatic drainage on my mum, and she kind of showed me how to do it. But my mum ended up passing away before I did the module of my diploma. And I remembered feeling like I wish I knew this and maybe it could have changed the outcome, but I don't think that that's obviously the case. But the way they sold it to us in a way on the course was that it was more as like a management of symptoms for people with chronic illness and chronic disease or even cancer survivors. And it wasn't until I moved to Sydney and then I was working in Bondi that the lady I was working for kind of was like, we're going to add lymphatic drainage to the menu. And I was like, I didn't understand, because I was like, isn't it for, this? And she was like, no, you can actually do it to support your well-being. And I feel like that's when the penny dropped for me. And I was like, this is my calling, because not only does it have like health and wellness benefits, but it also has like that aesthetic benefit as well. As you said, like you appeared like, more lean and slim and toned. And yeah, for me, it's like I feel connected to my mum when I'm doing it. And she was a beauty therapist, so she gave treatments and I'm treating. And, I love looking at the effects. I love hearing people's results and the benefits, and hearing that like their digestion's working. If we get really graphic, like sometimes they're like, oh, I've been constipated for days. And then, they'll have a massage with me and I'm like, tell me if you have a bowel movement. And then they text me and they're like, oh my God, massive release. So like, I absolutely love that. Like, I'm not afraid to kind of talk about all of that side of things.
I feel like there's always poo chat on the Self-Dom podcast.
Well,
so
it's important.
I'm here for it.
Like, it's important. Like, for me, I would freak out if I didn't go one day, and then I get in there and I massage my own stomach because I'm just like, what is happening? So I would say, that's a really long-winded answer as to why I love lymphatic drainage. And my wellness journey kind of started with my mum and has been present throughout my life. And now that she's not here anymore, I still feel really connected to her, like every day treating. And I'm like surrounded by women, and she was surrounded by women. And I spent a lot of time in the salon growing up. Like, I know how to do practically every treatment. I've been waxing since I was a child, like not myself, but her, and like doing pedicures, facials, all of that. So I feel like it was kind of a natural direction for me.
Oh, I love that. And I'm getting emotional, obviously, with my mum and just knowing that you're doing this because you love it. And I also admire that your love for it was to help people with chronic illness, and then it's the benefits physically, like aesthetically, that are second. And I think that's really important. Whether or not you're going to get a lymphatic for the physical, it's going to have all these incredible benefits for your immune system and things. So that's amazing to hear. I did want to touch on, for anyone who's listening, just simply, what is a lymphatic massage?
So I might just explain the lymphatic system so that then when I talk about lymphatic massage, it's maybe easier to understand. But if you think about the lymphatic system, is essentially a drainage system for the body. So you've got the circulatory system, and then the lymphatic system is almost a secondary circulatory system. So when you think about the circulatory system, we have the veins, the arteries, the heart, and that's kind of circulating through the body, and the heart is pumping all of the blood around, and so it's kind of circular. And what the blood does is it's bringing new and fresh nutrients to the cells, and it's nourishing the cells. And then you've got the lymphatic system, and it's kind of sitting, parallel almost to the veins and the arteries, and it's essentially like taking all the toxins. So, the blood's bringing the fresh and the lymph is taking away like what the body doesn't need. So the blood kind of spits out intracellular fluid as it's kind of circling around, and then we have like pathogens, bacteria, toxins, chemicals that enter into the body, whether that's through the skin or through what we've eaten or what we've, drunk, or in through our nose as we breathe, however it comes into the body. And then it's the lymphatic system's job to collect that fluid and collect those toxins, and it kind of sends it through the system. And the lymphatic system is like one directional. It's going back to just to the collarbone, or it's to the right and left subclavian vein and jugular vein junction. That's a massive amount of words to say, but if you want to know the science, that's where it's going. So a lot of people say, oh, it all goes back to the heart. And yes, technically it goes back to the heart, but it's actually the thoracic duct on the left, or sorry, if I'm mirroring the left, it goes into that kind of junction here, and then on the right thoracic duct goes into the other junction. So as the fluid is collected, it goes through the vessels, and then it reaches lymph nodes. And lymph nodes act as little filters, and in there they've got the white blood cells, they've got the lymphocytes, the T cells, which are made in the thymus, and the B cells found in the bone marrow. And they're kind of, it's like an airport security checkpoint. It's like they'll go through the bag or they'll go through the lymph, and they're like, no, that's not allowed in, and no, that's not coming in. So they kind of kill that off, and then they send it to the next checkpoint, and so on. And it goes all the way up until it dumps back into the circulatory system. And then from there, the cleaned lymph will keep circling around the body. And then when there's too much fluid in the body, there's a hormone called ANP. I don't know the full length of the name, but that sends a signal to the bladder for you to release. Mm-hmm. And so for whatever reason, like, this system should be working on its own. Like, we shouldn't technically need lymphatic drainage, but because of our lifestyle, we're sedentary more than, we maybe ever were. We're very stressed. We might have poor sleep. We might not be drinking enough water, or whatever it is, our food, very processed, full of pesticides, all the things, is compromising the lymphatic system. So you start to notice it in, the body becomes inflamed, you become tired, you're not feeling rested after your sleep, you're sluggish. If we're on the contraceptive pill or something, which I know you've come off, and I don't know if you struggle with this, but sometimes like we get that kind of water weight. And I had that when I was on the pill, which is why I came off, because I was like, oh my God, no.
I'm already feeling that. It's been about 6 weeks since I've been off the pill, and I feel so much less bloated on my body, and I feel like my digestion's working better.
That's amazing.
I feel like I can eat more food and nourish myself, but I don't have that bloated or heavy feeling. It's quite interesting. I mean, I have also been doing lymphatic massages once a week, but on top of that, being off the pill, I'm noticing such a difference with water retention.
Yeah, and I think because of the synthetic hormones, which I guess we'll talk on later, and estrogen kind of does attract more fluid. And if you've got estrogen dominance, I'm pretty sure it is. Hormones aren't really my domain, but from what I do know, that it makes the body hold more fluid. So what lymphatic drainage is doing is supporting the lymphatic system that, for whatever reason, like all those things I mentioned, could be happening to you, or that's what your lifestyle could be like, or is impacting the system, and you notice it, like you said, you feel you're heavy, or you're whatever it is, you're fatigued, you're bloated, you wake up bloated, and you're like, I haven't eaten anything, like, what's going on? So that's maybe when you would need a lymphatic drainage. And essentially what I'm doing, as you felt during the treatment, is I'm pumping on the lymph nodes, and as I pump on the lymph nodes, that creates like a vacuum effect, and it starts to draw the fluid into the nodes. And then, as I said, the lymph is one directional, all draining here, so the face will drain down and the rest of the body kind of drains up, except there are things in the body that we won't get into because it might be too complex to understand, but there's like things called watersheds, which are little divisions in the body, and then certain parts of the body will drain to certain lymph nodes. So the stomach actually drains down to the pelvic nodes, but anyway, if you just think of all the lymph is draining to the collarbones, and essentially I'm just pushing all of that fluid to those lymph nodes, and then that's starting to send it through the system. And, you know, you felt when I compared the two legs.
Yeah,
like,
wow.
It's wild.
Yeah, when we did the massage, Soph did one leg and she lifted it up and it felt so light. And then she lifted the other one and it felt so heavy. It was quite an amazing thing to witness. I'd had lymphatic massages before, but no one had compared it during the massage. They just show you the photos.
Exactly.
And it was quite incredible. And obviously you were talking about toxins.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much inevitable in modern society. Mm-hmm. But getting a lymphatic massage can be expensive. So I wanted to chat to you about how can we get the benefits of lymphatic massage from home?
Oh, I think to support the lymphatic system, we already know everything we need to be doing to be healthy. And I think it's not new information. So we all know that having 8 hours of good quality sleep is like paramount. That is the time when all of the body's systems restore themselves. So if you're not having good sleep, there's something going on, definitely. And, you know, I don't know whether it's the lymphatic system or what it is, but that would be the first thing I would say to try to sort out. Like, prioritize your sleep, no phones after a certain time, red lights on, or like low lights, because that starts to stimulate the production of melatonin. It just like helps you start to wind down. I wouldn't say do any like vigorous exercise before bed, because that kind of gets you really, you know, excited. Or like I do dance classes on Friday nights and I cannot sleep after dance class. Like I'm just like there, like so wired. So yeah, try to avoid that. But I'm also like, that's my Friday night. Like I can have a little late night sometimes, but I do try to be in bed by 9:30, 10 at the latest. So prioritizing your sleep would be number one. Movement. Because the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump, it relies on muscle contractions. So, and all of the lymph nodes are positioned in all the major hinges and joints of the body, because the circulatory system has a heart. So the heart's kind of circulating the blood through the veins, where nothing's pushing the lymph. It's kind of relying on, you know, increased heart rate. So as the veins pump the blood through at a faster rate, the vessels sit kind of close to the veins, and that's helping to pump and push the fluid. And then as we're moving, whether you're doing like yoga, Pilates, like, you know, you're contracting a joint and that starts to pump those lymph nodes. So movement is one. Walking is amazing, especially because the lymphatic system has to defy gravity. So it's, you know, as you walk, you're kind of bouncing and it's like pushing the lymph through the body. Then staying hydrated, because I feel like some people are like, oh, wouldn't that be counterintuitive? Like, I'm retaining fluid, why would I put more fluid in? Because the fluid actually helps to drain the stagnation. So if you think of a river, for example, if it hasn't rained, the river becomes like, you know, it might dry out. Maybe some parts might become stagnant and then like mold and, you know, it just gets all really gross, like mosquitoes and all of that start to set in. But when it rains, the river flows and can flow efficiently, and the ecosystem is a lot cleaner and healthier, and the water's clear and you could probably drink the water. But if it was a stagnant river, you wouldn't drink it. It's toxic or it's gross. Yeah. That's, I guess, what you can think of when you're, you know, drinking your water. You're kind of hydrating, flow, everything starts to flow. Then I would say diet. I mean, diet's hard because, like, even if you're buying fruits and vegetables and stuff, like if you're not buying organic, and I know that can sometimes break the bank, they can be filled with pesticides and chemicals.
And then your lymph's working hard to try and get rid of it.
Yeah, but also if you've got you've got to pick your battles. Like if you're still eating like vegetables and fruits that maybe have pesticides, it's still probably better than having like packet processed foods and, you know, drinking alcohol all the time.
I think as well I'm guilty because I mean, do I want to say this on the pod? But like often I don't wash my fruit and vegetables.
No, neither.
But I'm like, now that I've learnt this, if I'm not able to buy organic, washing it is so important.
It is.
And a lot of brands like Koala, they sell the wash stuff, so it's quite easy as long as you get the right product. Then at least you're washing some of the pesticides off.
Yeah, I mean, look,
But I'm
sometimes
bad. Like,
I'm
I'll
guilty
get an apple,
for it too.
I'll eat it straight away.
Yeah, or
and
like you get your rocket and you just throw it straight in the salad. Like,
I mean, Paul, who else is doing that? Surely it's not just us. Lazy girls.
I mean, I think when you're time poor, like we're running businesses, like you're just like quick, and that is another thing, like I know Bianca touched on it in your pod with her, like eat mindfully, but we are like so guilty of like being on the go. But obviously we know to eat healthy, like avoid processed foods where you can. Sometimes
it's a killer, man.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you want to treat yourself, and like I'm not saying live like a saint, don't have fun. Like 80-20. I am a Libra. I like to have balance. I love a chocolate, but like choose a good chocolate. Don't, don't go and eat
love.
like Loco Love. Like
Obsessed.
I love Loco Love. We all love Loco Love.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my guilty pleasure. The pecan butter caramel.
The new
my
collagen one is.
Oh, I haven't tried it. I will have to try
It's
that
like a caramello koala.
Oh,
it's like
stop.
caramelly, gooey.
Okay, I'll have to try that one.
Yeah.
Because anything that's like caramelly, love.
I know.
So those would be my top 4, and then trying to, where possible, limit your stress and like the toxicity in your life, and whether that's, the toxins you're putting in your body, also like, the products we're using. I have this app called Yuka.
Oh my God, I love Yuka.
And I scan everything. And it's a bit stressful sometimes. And then sometimes
it's eye-opening though.
It is eye-opening.
And then sometimes I'm like, my favorite products are not good, and I'm torn because it feels good and it's working for me, but later down the track,
but is it disrupting the endocrine system? Like, there's so many things. But sometimes I'm not sure about Yuka because, like, I love Yuka as a base, but I feel like I scanned cacao nibs, like organic cacao nibs, and it said it was too high in fat. And I was like, I'm ignoring that because I like fats. Like, I like to eat good fats. And I'm like, well, it's better than, like, I don't know, the fat of butter or bacon. But I also love butter. So I think, scan to a certain
I think
extent.
if it's natural as well, it's a really good place to start. If it's someone could pick it from a tree or it's the outskirts of the supermarket, that simple rule, I think that's great.
Like the Bondi markets, they have great.
Yeah,
they have great.
Absolutely. And when it comes to doing massage, can you do a lymphatic massage on yourself?
Yeah, you can. So I teach workshops on like self-massage. I have called them the self-sculpt massage. Sculpt seems to be my favourite word. I like to think of myself as like an artist sculpting, a sculpture. And in those I teach just like simple things or techniques. Like breath work is an amazing way to kind of stimulate the lymphatic system. So I have like a bit of breath work in that, movement, obviously. I've created like a lymph dance.
That's what she's doing Friday night.
Yeah.
She's like sculpting the face.
Sculpting my stomach. No, for stomach.
Oh, I love belly dancing.
Belly dancing. So I think, you kind of want to support the lymphatic system but make it seamless in your routine and like also make it fun. Like who doesn't, put on their favourite song and dance in front of the mirror?
Everyone.
Like, well, girls, I hope. I mean.
And if you're not, you should. It's really good for you.
Start. Like, it makes you feel empowered. It gets you back into your body. So
except you're at my house right now. We have windows everywhere. It's like a glass box, and I'm just
I would
like,
still
what?
dance.
No, but what do the neighbours say? Because often I'm in the nude.
Yeah, same. Always. I'm dancing. I'm, doing whatever. I mean, I'm wearing more clothes now. It's winter, but in summer.
Yeah, she's nudie Rudy.
Yeah, my sister and I just at home, no clothes. The neighbours know what we look like. I'm like, oh well.
Oh well.
Yeah, the neighbour across is also naked, so it's like
just don't make eye contact.
I know, it's so funny when I then see them in the street. I'm like, oh my God. I've seen you, but like I'm not looking.
No.
It's just like a glimpse, like it's just nude skin. Anyway,
shy girl.
So in these workshops, I also teach how to do it on yourself. I find stomach is the most requested to help with.
When I saw you, you asked where I want to focus. I'm always like stomach.
Stomach, I know. I think that's everyone's like.
But we hold
biggest
stress
insecurity.
there, right?
Yeah, stress, worry, and anger in the liver, all sorts of things. Like, you know, it's a very vulnerable area. It's like where all of our major organs are housed. And like for us women, it's like, you know, the baby is in there. We've got all the reproductive organs. Obviously men do too. But, you know, it's very like, you know, it's the most requested thing for me, and the face to be massaged. So I actually have got to the point where I think my stomach is the favourite part of my body. I used to hate my stomach, and now I'm like, I love my stomach.
Yeah,
like,
because you regularly give it the attention.
Yeah, I do, and I, you know, work hard at Pilates, and I focus on what I eat, and I, you know, I try to stay on top. Like, yes, around my period it still gets bloated, and then I'm like, oh, but I do a little bit of lymphatic drainage massage, self-massage, and, you know, the bloating kind of goes down, and yeah. That's what I'm teaching essentially. So it's like simple tricks and tips. I also have the videos on my Instagram for how to do it.
Okay, make sure you go look at that, because I feel like it's a simple thing to add to your routine, and a lot of girls do feel self-conscious about that stomach area. And if you can spend 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. So the way I teach it in the workshops is with oil, and it's like kind of like a full routine. But I tell them, you know, it's mostly women coming to my workshops. I have had one man, bless, king, but most of the time it's women. And I tell them that, you know, I mostly do this routine on myself in bed. If I've gone out to dinner and I've eaten something where I'm like, you know, that's going to set me off, I'll do a little bit of self-massage, and I'm doing it like through my pajamas or through the sheets or whatever. I'm not getting out this oil, and I'm not doing like this full thing. Like, you can just do 5 minutes. I hit all the points of my colon or my large intestine, and then I clockwise circles, and then I feel really good. And then the next morning, if I'm like, oh, it still feels a bit off, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
If you're struggling with constipation, for example, you can just do that every night and every morning, and then just see if it makes a difference.
Yeah, super simple. I think we all have 5 minutes, so that's a great advice.
Like, you know, it's a nice way to wake up rather than staring at your phone. You can just like connect to your body and
put
take
a meditation on.
Like take some deep breaths. Even just breathing into your stomach or breathing into the diaphragm can help stimulate the lymphatic system and help stimulate the flow. Like, when a lot of us aren't breathing properly. Like at the start of the treatments, I ask, like, okay, take your deep breaths. And some people just breathe into their chest, and I'm like, okay, you're breathing wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm even a Nazi, and I'm like, I'll put my hands on their belly, and I'm like, I want you to breathe into my hands. And they can't. And I'm like, okay, this is your homework. In between now and the next treatment, you're going to work on your breathing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they come back, and then the next treatment, I'm like, oh, I'm so impressed. And they're like, oh, yeah, like I really felt like a difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the workshops, you if you want to do them, or I also have the videos on Instagram. I have techniques on how to, you know, do lymph for the face. I actually worked with Bathe, and they have all the videos. We worked together, and I did like a full lymph of the whole body. It's on their TikTok, I think. You know, you can look at how to drain the legs, the stomach, the arms, the face, and then I've got my own videos. And then I still haven't seen this technique, but I don't know if you've heard of the Big Six. Anyway, I thought I created this thing called the lymph activation technique, and then I was kind of teaching it, and everyone's like, oh yeah, it's like the Big Six. And I was like, what's the Big Six? And they were like, oh, you know, you pump all the 6 main lymph nodes in the body and then you jump. And I was like, who would know what the Big Six is? Like, when you hear the name the Big Six, like, you don't know what that is. So anyway, I've called it the lymph activation technique. I've heard that it's slightly different. So that's another way that you can stimulate the lymphatic system every day. And that takes 1 minute. Like, amazing. You have 1 minute. You definitely have 1 minute. The video is on my Instagram. I think the video is literally 30 seconds. And you're essentially pumping all the main lymph nodes, and then you jump. And if you don't want to jump, you can just keep the balls of the feet on the ground and just pump your heels. And that creates like, you know, a rippling effect. It helps the lymph defy gravity and make its way back to the blood.
Okay, well, everyone has a minute.
Yeah,
so
you have
not
a minute.
Really any excuses
No excuse
here. And yeah, I just feel like as women, as you said, it's really important that we are prioritizing our lymphatic system and getting rid of those toxins. Mm-hmm. I wanted to touch on, women's health, a lot of my friends and me have been susceptible to water retention. And you said that the pill could be a cause of that. But why do you think women are suffering with this so badly at the moment? It's more than ever, really.
I mean, I'm not sure about like at the moment, but I think in general, women have estrogen, and estrogen can make you, retain fluid, and men, that's probably where the difference is between men and women. I'm sure they still have estrogen, but I know it's a like lower dose, I'm pretty sure. And we have, more estrogen in the body, and maybe we've got estrogen dominance, which is where there's like less progesterone in the body. So, and the progesterone in pregnancy, the progesterone helps relax the muscles. So we will retain more fluid, about 30 to 50% more fluid during pregnancy because of the high levels of progesterone. And because that's relaxing the muscles, and the muscles aren't, contracting as they would. And then obviously the baby's in the stomach and kind of compressing the digestive system. And you've got something underneath the sternum called the cisterna-chyli, which is at the base of the thoracic duct. And that helps, stimulate the whole lower body to drain. And so that's maybe being compromised as well during pregnancy. And so the legs will puff out. I mean, not so much the stomach. I feel like the skin's really taut, but it's mostly the legs and the ankles and the feet. But I'm pretty sure when you've got estrogen dominance when you're not pregnant, and don't quote me, that the progesterone levels are also too low, and that also stops, the flow of the fluid for whatever reason. I'm not entirely sure. But I also think that in terms of maybe women now more than ever retaining fluid, could be also because we're the ones responsible to take a contraception. And are there any natural contraceptives aside from condoms?
Yeah.
And maybe the copper IUD, which you have to be screened for because it can make your period, heavier. I would have loved to have gone on the copper IUD, but I already had like this intense period, and they were like, absolutely not.
Wow.
So, you're not left with a lot of options, and most of them have synthetic hormones.
So I guess, that's the pill that's really impacting a woman's body.
The Implant or whatever that is, the rod in the arm, I was like, oh, and I know a girl who she had it in, and the arm got injured and it got hit and it released all the hormones, and then she just completely puffed out. Yeah, and it was so sad. And I was like, I would never I would just never have, I mean, I don't know. I don't really like to have foreign objects in my body anyway. I think, when that breast implant illness came to light, and you realised that the body was treating it as a foreign body and actually trying to kill it off, I just like, ew, I would never then get this thing in my arm. No way.
There needs to be more education certainly around contraception for women, because we are now older, so we understand the pros and cons. And if I had to go on something now, I would make a decision based on knowledge. But when you're, 15, 16, we're pushed on it. And on top of that, you don't think about, foreign thing in my arm. You think, everyone's doing it, I'll do it. You don't think about
mostly,
it.
I mean, maybe at that age you're thinking, I just don't want to get pregnant.
Yeah.
So,
but you're not thinking about the long term. But you also,
at the same time, don't trust the men, no offense, to be protected.
But I also truly believe that if they said you might suffer with water retention, acne in the future, all these negative side effects, I wouldn't
higher risk of developing breast cancer, ovarian cancer, all those things. Yeah, I would not have done it. I wasn't on it for too long, I think, because it really affected my emotions. I was like, who am I? I turned into this psycho. And I went on it when I was young and for my skin, and then I puffed right out. Like I started holding a lot of water weight, and then I was like, oh my God, no way. So then I went off it, but then my skin came back worse. And then I was like, okay, what, what do I want more? So I wanted to have better skin. So I went back on it. And then I was just very mindful of my diet and what I was eating, and I think at the same time I'd gotten braces. So I actually couldn't eat anything because I got those braces that have they were clear, and then they had the clear elastic bands.
Oh my God, PTSD.
Yes.
I'd fling those bands when I was at school.
Yeah. But if I ate anything that was coloured, it would like stain them, and then I had to wait a month to get it changed. So I couldn't drink it through a straw, or I couldn't like cut it up and put it to the back of my mouth, I wasn't eating it. And that's when I got into smoothies, because also it was so painful, the reconstruction of the jaw. So yeah, then I kind of managed the water weight from being on the pill with, being more mindful, and I started exercising a lot more.
I wanted to touch on skin health. Mm-hmm. Does doing regular lymphatic massages help your skin?
Yes. So if you struggle with acne, and in general, it helps and boosts the complexion of the skin. Like you said, the whites of your eyes look better. So it's kind of, when there's less toxins in the body can, prioritize healing and recovering more as well. So initially, if you're wanting to do lymphatic drainage to treat acne, initially what can happen is it will bring everything to the surface of the skin, and then you might, have all these breakouts first, and then the more you kind of keep going, the better the skin will start to appear. In saying that, I'm doing lymphatic drainage all the time, but then if I do eat like my skin has always been a little bit of an issue, but like if I eat something that's a bit naughty, then or around my period, I'll get a breakout and I'm like, oh. And then unfortunately for me, I have skin that scars really easily. So it's like the pimple might be there for a few days, but then the scar's there forever. And I'm like,
no, your skin's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's a lot better, I think, through doing regular lymphatic drainage.
And of course, all the healthy habits you have as well.
As well, yeah. So I'm not going to say that lymphatic drainage is the cure, and that if you just do lymphatic drainage and, the rest of your lifestyle is, making poor lifestyle choices, that it's going to do anything. I would then say don't bother. I think you have to be committed to your health, and then lymphatic drainage is like an additive, like it assists the wellness journey. It's not the wellness journey.
Yeah, and I know when I came in, you were telling me how some people might come in after a big night or anything like that to, reduce the bloating, but really you're just going to feel sick because it's bringing it all up.
Yeah, well, it forces, so the lymphatic drainage, we're forcing a detox effect. So the body has to then process and filter those toxins, and that can mimic like a hangover.
Yeah.
Because, when you've drank alcohol the night before, and then your body has to kind of work through that. You feel nauseous, you feel headachy, you maybe go to the toilet more frequently. That's the same thing with lymphatic drainage. And then, so I get a lot of people coming for lymphatic drainage in, before an event. And that's great because you look great, but I would recommend doing it at least 2 to 3 days before, because once we stimulate the lymphatic system, it will keep filtering for the next up to 72 hours if you're quite strict with your post-treatment care.
What does that look like?
Prioritizing sleep, eating,
all the good stuff.
all the things
which
that
you should be doing all the time.
You should be, but then also like we've got to live. I totally understand. We're all living and functioning in this society. Sometimes you want to go out. Sometimes you stay up late. Sometimes you eat out and it's like maybe not the best food. But, I think pick your battles and do what you can. Like, obviously you can, you've got a whole menu. You can choose different things when you're eating out, and maybe you don't need to drink when you're going out. If you've had a lymphatic drainage, I would 100% say don't drink alcohol because you're just ruining everything we've just done.
And if you're getting it before an event, you're probably going to start drinking alcohol.
Yeah, they are. Well, yeah, and that's fine. I think, everyone's getting it for different reasons, but, if you're going to have it before an event, get it a few days before the event so that your body can recover, and then it will look really good for the event.
I know as well, when I do a lymphatic massage, for me, I've invested in my health, so then I'm more inclined to make healthy decisions. Yeah. So it's like, it's a flow-on effect. You feel good in your body, so then you feel good in your mind.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it sculpts your stomach incredibly well.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. when I was there, I was chatting to you about how I fly a lot for work. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about, firstly, the impact of flying on your lymphatic system, and what do you recommend to not swell on a flight? Because honestly, after even a domestic flight, my ankles are swollen.
I know, mine's my face. I'm like, oh my God, so puffy.
And I'm going to shoot and I'm swollen. And I'm like, this sucks.
I know, it is. I mean, flying's a hard one. I think obviously we know that the cabin pressure, it slows down the flow of the blood, and it really dehydrates the body. So because everything's slowing down and, you know, everything's not moving or circulating how it should, and remember that the lymphatic system also relies on movement and the flow of the blood to help filter. That's why we kind of swell, essentially. So it's like the pressure is just so much, and we're not also moving, we're sitting for long periods of time. So we do just kind of puff out. And my recommendation, and you said you listened to Detox by Rebecca, one of her podcasts, she also says, like, do not eat on the plane if you can help it. Like, obviously, you know, if you're doing...
So hard, because all I want to do on a flight is eat. Like at the airport, I go to the convenience store and I'm like, health lab balls and this.
Yeah, I know. But... okay, if I get really graphic, I was in Bali recently for a retreat, and obviously I flew to Bali, and then the very next day after my flight, I had booked a colonic, and my digestion works like super efficiently. Like it's doing its thing.
Well, we hope so, because you're the lymphatic lady.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and after this colonic, it was incredible. Like I was just like, wow. But you know, before the colonic, I went to the bathroom as normal, totally fine. And then during the colonic, she was like, oh, you know, you've got some really dry, hard fecal matter. And I was like, that's weird because it's never dry and hard. And she was like, oh, when did you fly? And I was like, yesterday. And she was like, it's probably from the flight. Like it completely dehydrates.
Wow.
So, you know, if whatever you're eating on the flight is just, you know, you're essentially making yourself constipated. And you know how when you come off the flight, you're like, oh, like it's maybe a little bit harder. It's because it is so dehydrated. So my recommendations would be to drink as much fluids as you can. And if you're getting an early morning flight, like I have to get up and have a whole liter of hot water every morning.
She needs an aisle seat, that's for sure.
Need to take your aisle seat. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think when I'm on the flight, even if I've drunk a lot of water, I don't need to wee as much because it's getting, you know, sucked out of me in every way.
Yeah.
But we were saying after your treatment how, you know, you said you get a lot of juices and stuff. I would recommend, like, if you're going to eat anything or do anything on the plane, drink the juices, drink hot water or warm water because it just kind of helps everything move. I personally never drink cold water ever. Like if someone's like, do you want ice in your water? I'm like, no.
Yeah, I've heard like Chinese medicine, it's a no-no.
No. Yeah, I just, no.
I go to the convenience store and ask for the water not in the fridge.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have plastic water bottles. Yeah. I mean, Bianca put that straight. I know she said that. But if I have to, I ask for the one not in the fridge.
Yeah, I don't want the cold one.
I agree. I hate it.
Yeah, I don't like it. Some people love it.
Yeah, but people think I'm strange. Because I always have hot water.
I don't care if I'm strange.
No, I'm
like, it works for me.
Yeah,
like, and my body loves it. Like, as soon as there's a sip of hot water, it's like, I'm ready. I'm on the toilet.
But I'm like the Caltex and like the Woolworths when I'm like, do you have any water not in the fridge? They're like, you're weird.
I know. I don't know why we decided to chill the water.
Yeah.
But anyway, I also saw at Woolworths the other day that you can buy this, and it's organic. I think the brand's called Spiral, like this freeze-dried or organic miso soup. And you just add hot water and there's your meal.
I always do that on the plane. I bring miso pastes, the little singular ones, and I just get them to put water in there.
This one has seaweed in it.
Yeah, this one had seaweed. Must be the same one.
Oh, it's so good. Anyway, I think that could be a really great alternative. Like if you're hungry, it will, you know, fill you up. You're getting some nutrients.
You can get those bone broth as well. That's like you could bring that.
Can you get that through security?
You know the paste?
Oh, the paste.
You could bring that with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to Europe in a month now, which is crazy.
Exciting.
For my brother's wedding, and I want to be ready, like, because I'm only going for a short trip pretty much get there. It's the wedding. So I don't want to feel bloated. I want to feel good. I don't want to get sick. So often you get sick after a flight. So these are such good tips. Just hydrate, bring bone broth, misos. I'm going to be glowing after this flight.
Yeah, you will. But you can eat at the stopover.
Oh, okay.
You can eat at the stopover. If you not embarrassed to look like a crazy person, lay down, put your legs up.
Oh, I always do that.
Yeah,
I'm not
same.
embarrassed.
I do that. I stretch. I wear my yoga pants. People are like, what is she doing? I'm like, I need to move. My body has been in the one position for however many hours, sometimes 8, sometimes 14.
I need gyms at the airport. It's so crazy to me.
Or just walk. Like I said, walking is incredible for the lymphatic flow and lymphatic system. So get off the plane, walk.
Yeah.
Drink water. If you're really starving, have your meal. But don't eat it on the plane.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to be prepared for this
Do your lymph
flight.
activation technique that you can find on the Instagram.
The person next to me is going to be like, are you all good? Because I always bring like a sheet mask as well.
Same, all the under-eye jellies.
Yeah, I'm that girl.
I have the foil under-eye jellies. I don't know. They're like the reusable silicone ones. And then I put my eye cream on. I put them on. People are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm not drying out.
Yeah. Well, throughout this episode, I'm like, Sophie's got an amazing routine. You are glowing. So whatever you're doing is working. What does a usual morning look like for you?
A usual morning, I think it depends. Like when I wake up, it depends on the mood of my cat. If he's like, if he's like in a bad mood and like at me, the first thing I do when I get up is feed him. If he's pretty chill, the first thing I do is I scrape my tongue. I've been scraping my tongue for years. I can't ever remember not scraping my tongue. And that is, so what happens overnight is your mouth starts to, get rid of all the toxins and it sits on your tongue. So scrape it, get rid of the toxins.
What about the back of a toothbrush? Is that good enough?
Oh, I don't know. There's something so satisfying about the copper. I use the copper. Yeah. And what comes off is so disgusting. You will, if you start doing this habit, you'll never stop doing it.
Before you brush your teeth?
Yeah, before.
Straight away?
Straight away, first thing. Scrape it off, brush my teeth. Then if I haven't already fed the cat, I go into the kitchen, I feed the cat. And then I have like a kind of ceramic water filter. I fill that up with, tap water. And then I use the filtered water, boil the kettle, and I have my liter of hot water. And
Straight away?
Straight away. Wow. And then while I'm drinking that, I might go in and, while I'm drinking that, I might go in and cleanse my face and maybe do a bit of face massage. And then I'm usually either getting ready I'll go for a sunrise walk or a sunrise swim, or I'll get ready and go to Pilates, or I'm just rushing out the door to get to work.
Yeah. But you have your few things, like your scraping, your water, that are just non-negotiables and clearly great for your lymphatic system.
Yes. And like I have the Frank Green bottle, love Frank Green. Some people are the Stanley Cup girls.
No, I think
I'm a Frank Green girly.
I mean, I love both, but because I travel a lot, the Stanley Cup, you put it through security, all your water falls out the straw.
Yeah.
It happened to me. It was in my bag. I was stupid. I just got water everywhere.
Devastating.
Yeah.
But I have the liter Frank Green bottle, and I'll drink a liter before I leave the house.
You know what?
And that's my liter, first liter done. And then all I need to, I'll drink another 2 liters. So I usually drink about 3 liters. But if you're struggling to get your water in, try the hot water. And especially winter, like now is a really great time to start because it's so warming and I just feel warm. I take it on my walk and I'm just sipping on my bottle. And then, I live in Coogee, so I'll go down the hill, and by the time I'm getting back up the hill, the water's gone and I'm like, shit, I need more water. Now I'm thirsty.
Yeah, I also have like my water hacks. Mine is I'm not allowed to have a matcha until I only have 500 mils to start, but I'm not allowed to have my matcha until I have it. So it's like a reward.
Yeah, a reward.
And then I've been using all the Beauty Chef powders and stuff to make my water taste yummier. Mm-hmm. And then, as you said, because it's cold, just a lot of herbal teas.
Yeah.
Lemongrass and ginger, passion flower, whatever it is. But I'm someone who doesn't love the taste of water, and I know a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
So putting the lemon, using a tea.
apple cider vinegar or something.
Just something.
A little powder.
To zhuzh it up,
Yeah.
Well, Soph, you're amazing.
Oh, thank you,
I always end the podcast with the same question. What advice would you give your younger self?
I would give my younger self advice to learn to say no. I think growing up, I actually didn't realise that I wasn't allowed to say no.
Really?
Yeah, like when I was 18 and I got my first job, if they asked me to do a shift and I didn't want to do it, I thought I had to say yes. So like if anyone asked me to help them with something, do something, I was saying yes, and then I was resenting that. And I was like, oh, like I really don't want to do it. And I just didn't realize, no one told me I was actually allowed to say no.
Yeah.
And I think I was so scared of people not liking me that I would just always say yes. And once I learned to say no and set boundaries, I realized that, you know, people respect me more, and, you know, I feel better about the decisions I'm making and the things that I'm doing in my life. And the people that don't respect that choice, then I'm like, well, I actually don't want you in my life. So yeah, learn to say no.
Yeah, incredible. And it's like the amount of time you would have given to people that you could have spent on yourself and that self-discovery and self-learning. It's really great.
Yeah.
I mean, we all need that advice now.
Learning to say no is a
still.
form of self-care, I think.
100%,
Like,
100%.
you know, in the moment, if you're like, do I feel like I want to do that? If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Hell yeah. Well, Sophie, thank you so much for jumping on the pod.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
If you don't follow Soph, make sure you do at Forme_by Sophie Dulac. She's got all these incredible videos. I'm so excited to incorporate the dancing and lymphatic massage.
You'll have to come to the workshop.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to come to the workshop. And if you guys love this podcast, make sure you share it on your socials, tag us, and show us what you're doing to incorporate more lymphatic massage into your routine. We would love to see it. And yeah, I'll see you on the next episode.